And you will actually get that recording probably sometime tomorrow. So if you want to go back and reference this, please feel free to do so. I'm also going to allow everybody, if you want to unmute yourself and ask questions during the presentation, please feel free. You also have the chat feature. If you want to participate in the chat, feel free to do that as well. We will also have a designated Q&A at the end of the presentation. So if you do want to hold off on questions until then, please feel free to do that. And without further ado, I will hand it off to our friends at Paper, and I'm going to actually share my screen. And just if somebody could confirm, yes, they can see that. Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining us this evening. I am Ivelisse Quiles, and I am the Senior Sourcing Talent Specialist here at Paper. Just to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do, we are in the EdTech space. We were founded in 2014. Our founders are out of Canada, but around 2020, we went ahead and made the crossover to the US. And so we are on a mission to provide educational equity to all students. And the way that we're trying to do that is by removing a financial barrier that some students or families could have or may have to access the sources and the talent that they need, tools and resources to be successful in the classroom. And so we provide students and families of our partnered districts all across the US with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, tutoring sessions, unlimited tutoring sessions. We provide them with early literacy. We provide them with prep for college and career while they're still in junior high and high school, or in middle school and high school. And we do all of those things at no cost to the family or to the students. And so by the school districts partnering with us, we are able to provide all of these services to the students at no cost. And so in 2020, we made the move over to the US to help during the pandemic and the need that was the students were having here in the US. And so we have now, like I said, just kind of expanded a little bit to early literacy in the elementary school sector, and then also the college and career prep. And so today we wanted to come to you during Women's History Month and talk to you a little bit about the women in tech here at Paper. I do have one of our engineers that is joining us today. Her name is Rebecca Benjamin. She can say hi or wave if she likes to. She is going to be talking to you guys in just a little bit. But we wanted to kind of bring to you a presentation as to what it's like to be a woman in tech here and now into 2022, 2023. I wanted to start off with maybe some US national statistics, if you could go to the next slide. And so, you know, we do have a lot of efforts and emphasis on trying to encourage women to join the technology space. And so really the alarming statistics are still there. We have increased from 1.6 million to 3.7 million over the last 3 decades. But right now, the percentage of women in tech roles has decreased overall. And so surprisingly enough, women made up a higher percentage in the IT workforce in 1984, which was 35%, than today, it's 32%. And women only hold about 26.7% of all of tech jobs. The percentage of women receiving new computer science degrees has recently declined by 18%. Women are 22% more likely to report experiencing imposter syndrome in tech and STEM workplaces, and up to 50% of women report experiencing gender discrimination during the hiring process or at work. 39% of women view gender bias as a significant barrier in tech job access, and 66% of women state that they see no clear path for advancement or improvement within their tech careers. So all of these statistics should be alarming to us here in the technology, IT, engineering workspace. And during Women's History Month, we want to call awareness to some of these things. And we want to let you know, well, what are some of the steps that Paper is taking to make sure that we are sourcing women in tech, that we are giving opportunity for women in tech to better themselves and to move on in their careers here internally. What are we doing to make sure that we give the opportunity to find women in tech who may not be on LinkedIn or Indeed or some of the major platforms? And then I also want to have one of our engineers kind of talk to you about her experience as a woman in tech. Next slide, please. And so this is just kind of a fun collage that I found online that tells us a little bit about what are some of the subjects and the topics that people are talking about when they talk about women in tech and closing the gender gap. Some of the things that we are doing is calling people to action to try to make a difference, to try to get to young women at an earlier stage, maybe in elementary school or middle school, while they're still in high school, trying to see what we can do even afterwards. Just open up dialogue and what could be done in the workplace. A lot of different good articles are coming out this month about what employers can do in the workplace to better support the women that they have working there. Next slide, please. But I do want to encourage everyone to let you know that there is hope. The percentage of new tech industry hires that were women increased from 29.4 in 2020 to 30.9 in 2021. So that's a really nice little increase there in just a year. The Bureau of Labor and Statistics projects projects a growth of up to 19% in computer science jobs between now and 2026. So all of the women that are now in university, higher education, don't be afraid to go into a technology-based job, because we are going to have a 19% increase in jobs that are going to be open between now and the time that you graduate. 83.6% of technology companies report operating with unbiased hiring and training practices. 75.5% of tech companies report implementing pay equity policies in the workplace. That is a huge win for us women in tech. In 2021, 5 tech companies made great strides towards representational parity in the workplace, which means that they wanted to have an equal amount of men and women in some of these top jobs in the IT and engineering roles. For example, some of these were Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, Alphabet, and Apple. And 30.9% of new tech hires are women. Next slide, please. And just to bring it home, I'm giving a few examples of women CEOs in the tech space. Sheryl Sandberg was the COO of Facebook until last year. Former YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki, and she was also CEO until about last year. CEO of Vimeo is Anjali Sood. The CEO of Walgreens Boots Alliance is Ross Brewer, and the CEO of TIIA is Thasunda Brown Duckett. And these are all women of, as you can see, different backgrounds that are all CEOs currently or were recently CEOs of huge companies. This is something that hasn't been normally or traditionally seen in some of these big companies. So what are we doing here at Paper with our the women female employees that we have. So I did ask a few of our engineers to answer some of the questions that I have on this slide. Like, what does it mean to be a woman in tech? What is the best part of being a woman in the tech industry? You know, we don't always want to talk about the negative side. We also want to talk about maybe what the positives are nowadays of being a woman in tech. What does a statement like this mean to you, that women in tech must embrace self-awareness, self-love, and embrace confidence to overcome pressure while dealing with others? And here is what some of them had to say. Next slide, please. Heling Zhang is our intermediate React Native developer, and she said to her that being a woman in tech means breaking down the barriers, challenging stereotypes, and paving the way for future generations of women to enter and excel in this field. What is the ideal workplace culture for a woman in tech? For her, it's one that values diversity, that offers opportunities for advancement, and provides a safe and inclusive environment. And what does the statement that I just read mean to her? It means being aware of her strengths and weaknesses while still maintaining a positive self-image and having the confidence to stand up for the ideas and opinions that she has. And the next slide is Rebecca Benjamin. She's our intermediate back-end developer, and she is actually joining us today. And I would love for her to tell you a little bit more about her experience as a woman in tech and what led her to Paper, and then just go over some of the answers that she answered, the questions that she answered for us in regards to that. Rebecca?
Thank you. So I have been working in the tech industry for like more than 7 years now, and I have been with Paper for like 8 or 9 months or so. It's exciting to be in this industry, as you know, for me, software development was one of my hobbies, which I kind of converted into my daily job. So that's what keeps me motivated about my career. So some of the questions I which are was were what does it mean to be a woman in tech? To which I said, woman in tech for me is both fun and empowering. It allows me to be creative, innovative, and constantly learning while solving real problems. I also feel good about setting an example of what women like me can achieve and how we are able to overcome challenges. Being a woman in tech has its own challenges, though, because male coworkers sometimes underestimate our abilities to creates a little bit of stress at workplaces. So that's one of the things I kind of sort of experienced at some point. Uh, so yeah, next was what is the ideal workplace culture for women in tech? Inclusive with good communication and opportunities to grow. Work from home is a great benefit that makes it easier during times when we must take time for self-care. And about the statement, it's sometimes difficult to have conversation with our peers or with our higher ups if you are facing issues at work. But the best way to deal with is talking to them upfront. There are times when we underestimate ourselves, but I think the biggest hurdle between you and an opportunity is you yourself. So, yeah, back to you.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And I do have also another one of our engineers. She is a senior front-end engineer here at Paper. Her name is Melissa Gonsalves. I don't know if she was able to join us today. Melissa, are you here?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Oh, awesome. Welcome.
Thank you. I think my slide should be next. There we go. Hi, everyone. Like Ivy said, I'm Melissa. I'm a senior software engineer, front-end engineer here at Paper. I've been here for quite a while in Paper terms. I've been here for 2.5 years. And what I mean by Paper terms, I mean, it's like we were a fast-growing startup. So we grew up and we scaled up pretty quickly. I don't mean that in any bad way, but we grew really quickly. And in 2 years is quite a while to have been here. So Yeah, a little bit of my background. Like I said, I am a front-end engineer. I have worked primarily on the platform level, and as well as currently working on our chat feature, which is our core feature here at Paper. And my path that led me into tech was not linear. I don't have a computer science background. I was originally working in the banking industry for 4 years. That career path was not viable for me, so I decided to make the switch into tech, into development, because it was something that I enjoyed doing as a hobby, much like Rebecca. More like things. It was more something that I dabbled with and played around with during my university career. And I didn't consider that a viable career path for me up until much later on. And I got introduced to a web development bootcamp. I took a 2-month bootcamp there, created a bunch of projects, and was able to find a job within a year. So tech is a pretty viable industry. And yeah, I'll go through that in my questions that I answered here. So being a woman in tech can be both challenging and rewarding. Like I said, it's a field that involves using your creativity, problem-solving skills, and technical knowledge to develop solutions to complex problems. It also requires a lot of resilience, determination, and commitment to making the industry more welcoming and equitable place for those coming in, and for everyone involved. The ideal workplace for me would be one that supports and respects you for the work that you do. They recognize the value that a diverse workforce brings, and also creates an environment where everyone is treated fairly and given equal opportunities. So for the statement, to me, it means acknowledging your worth and what you bring to the table. Tech is such a high pressure and fast paced environment. It's really important to kind of stay grounded and prioritize yourself both mentally and physically. And I'll pass it back to you, Ivelisse.
Awesome. So Melissa, that reminds me that when we talked, you said that this was not your original career path, that you shortly kind of mentioned on that. So you had already gone through college, gotten a degree, and were working in another field. You decided to go into the tech space. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so a lot of the students here at West Governors University are adult learners. And so I'm sure that that will resonate with many of them. And I encourage them that if, there is something that they've been thinking about and what they're doing now hasn't been working out, that there is hope that they can do and go into something else and, quickly find a position like you did, and start doing something they love. That is great. Thank you.
Definitely. You're welcome. Thanks. And yeah, I'm happy to discuss it even further, like later on in our Q&A.
Sure.
If anyone has any questions.
Great. Next slide, please. So we do have a recruiter here who really focuses on recruiting for the tech roles, the engineering roles, the IT roles, cloud ops, and front-end engineers, back-end engineers, full stack, all of that. She is actually not able to join us today, so I will talk about some of the things that we do here at Paper. As far as what I do is I try to focus on giving everyone equal access to our roles. And so I try to put and find little niche places here and there where there are people that may not necessarily be on LinkedIn or on Indeed or on Facebook or, Monster or ZipRecruiter, all of those kind of big ones. And so like we have our jobs posted on AWIS. We have them on Society for Women Engineers website. They have a Find Employment tab. And so we try to find different places that we want to have women or, the person and the employee that we're looking for to be able to have access to that. And so some of the places that we do that is by doing diversity job boards, by, like I said, national organizations, diversity and STEM career fairs. We do those in person and virtually. We do also have a strong focus on emerging talent with universities that have a diverse student population. Our number one referral source are employees. And so that is really, the best way to get someone to really buy into your mission is to have and know someone who already works for that company. And then we are very highly focused on internal promotions. And so all of our roles are opened first internally for about 10 days to give our employees a chance to submit their interest. And then if we are not able to find someone viable from that pool, then we will go ahead and open it to the public and post them in different job post boards. Next slide. So some of the things that our recruiters do when looking for women for our technical roles is she says she avoids bias when screening applicants, and she focuses on a candidate's skill set and experience. We do also use a standardized interview process. We actively source, like I just talked about. We use gender neutral job descriptions. We have had those kind of looked at by different organizations to give us feedback on if any of the wording would be considered better or gender neutral, because we do see, and statistically they say that when you have a lot of kind of lingo in terms of like being a rock star or being someone who is highly motivated or who is very committed, sometimes that is going to automatically kind of put off a woman from applying. Also, if we have a lot of must-haves in our qualifications, it is statistically proven that a woman is probably 50% less likely to apply to a job that she doesn't click every box to. And so in all of our job descriptions, we have a little blurb that says not everyone clicks every box. And so if this is something that you're still interested, please go ahead and put your application in to be reviewed and to be considered for our roles. And so we also do incentives for referrals from, like I said, from our in-house employees. Whenever we are looking for to fill some roles and we're just really having a hard time, we will do some referral incentives as well. Next slide. What do we offer our employees? And so we have some of the best benefits packages that I have ever seen in an employer. We offer great parental leaves policies. We have 6 months of maternity leave, and that also includes paternity leave, unlimited sick days. We have a focus on development for employees, not just acquisition, but also retention of those employees. We provide, we really strive to provide a gender safe and respectful work environment. And we try to have open doors of communications as a policy. And we make sure that we are always practicing equal opportunity laws. And so that brings us to our questions and answers. So if anyone has a question for myself, a question about the company, or a question for one of our engineers, you can feel free to either raise your hand in the chat, or you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Don't everybody ask at once.
Hi,
Hi.
I'll go. My name's Debbie. Sorry, I'm not turning my camera on.
It's okay.
I just got to the gym.
for
But
joining.
thanks. I I think my biggest question is how can we go about navigating this crazy job market that we're now entering? I finished my degree in January, and I felt like that was like the quite literal worst time to start applying places. I feel like not a lot of places are taking chances on people with no prior experience. I've been teaching math for 12 years, but going into the data space, I am finding it hard to get people to, give me that chance. Like, I know that they would love it, if they hired me, but it's just getting my foot in that door for even an interview. Like, I feel like the ATS is just knocking me out somehow. So do you have any advice on how to navigate that?
Yes, so if you really, I know that there is something that's saying that there is no such thing as beating the ATS. I'm here to tell you that there is such a thing. There are companies that actually do use AI to look through resumes before sending it to the actual recruiter. And so one of the things that you can do is making sure that you are customizing your either cover letter and also some part of your resume to include some of the wording that you see in the job description as it fits to your skills and your experience. We also sometimes encourage people to, even if you find a job on, let's say, LinkedIn or Indeed or any other job platform, go into the actual company's job board and apply directly from there. That is a really good way to beat the ATS. And go directly into the inbox of the recruiter. As far as getting someone to give you a chance, there are plenty of companies now that are going to skill sets rather than education level. A lot of times, understandably enough, there are companies that want a 3 to 5 year minimum. So maybe take a look at roles that don't have the word lead in them, that say maybe junior, like there's a junior engineer instead of intermediate or lead or senior. Some of those are very entry level. And so you could have a better chance of getting someone that way. Also, if you're on LinkedIn, just going into different groups. There are different groups for engineering, and people in there will kind of share different stories. We'll get some employers will also go in there and look for people and put their posts in there. So there's a little bit of kind of, it is a kind of a full-time job to look for a job right now. And so you kind of have to be a little bit of a detective and do a ton of networking and, just kind of make that. If you're also on LinkedIn, feel free to find out who is a recruiter for that job. Sometimes it'll say posted by, and you can send them a direct message and say, listen, I've put in my application. I just wanted to let you know my interest, and kind of use that as an introduction or a cover letter.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
I have a question, if that's all right. And this would be for the two engineers, if you both feel comfortable answering. What's some advice you would have for individuals that don't come from, let's say, a tech background, but are trying to break into the industry? What's word of advice that you would have for individuals that are trying to make that transition?
Yeah, so I can speak from my experience having done that myself. So I think starting off and breaking into the industry is going to be the most challenging thing, like landing those interviews. One thing I can say is definitely like especially for engineering, there's a lot of resources out there that you can take advantage of to facilitate your learning and to learn even more. One thing I was told to prioritize was really building those projects and getting yourself to basically take what you learn and apply that into projects so you have something to even show. Because that's one thing that new employers are definitely, or your employers are definitely going to look at is, well, you don't have prior experience, but hey, what can you actually do? So at least you have something tangible there that you can show to potential employers.
Thank you.
No problem.
I would actually like to add something that Melissa said, that I actually came from a tech background directly, so I haven't switched yet, but uh, it's always difficult for our first steps every time when we actually go into a tech industry as such. I would just advise that have like some GitHub projects or something like that, which you could be like, hey, this is an example. I have that kind of information or that kind of project experience that would help the employers know how is your work and how it will look in in when they recruit you or something like that. So that would really be a great thing to have.
Thank you.
Great. I'm trying to see at the chat and see if there's anyone that asked a question in the chat. Oh, I'm sorry, Debbie. Now I see your question. Hopefully we were able to answer it. Let's see. Okay. All right, there aren't any more questions. And so I'll give it one more chance if anybody has any questions whatsoever.
Lisa, I do have a question. I guess as individuals are maybe looking to apply for positions at Paper, what are some things that, you know, could really have them stand out when they go to apply for one of your positions?
So we definitely like to read in a resume how your experience can improve our processes. And we also like to see that you have done a little bit of research, at least, on the company and how you can link up with our mission and help us fulfill our mission through the position that you are trying to apply for or that you would like to join for. There are different things that we are going to be looking for in our interview process, and they're more behavioral based. And so if you, let's say you don't necessarily have exactly what is listed on the job description, but you have something that you've done at a previous position that is a transferable skill for that. You can you're more than welcome to put that on there. And then data, like, do you have quantifiable data if you have, been working in a space before, if you did an internship before, if you did any teaching assisting, any of that stuff, it's all going to be relevant to what you've done and how to show us that you have the knowledge for the position that you're applying for.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll give people another minute if they do think of questions. Just a reminder to everyone, this session is being recorded and it will be sent out tomorrow. So if you do want to go back and reference anything during the presentation, that will be sent out. So just kind of a heads up, keep an eye out for that at some point tomorrow.
Well, I do want to thank everyone for spending this half hour or so with us and coming to learn more about Paper and what we are doing to make the ed tech space a little bit more equitable for women now during all year long, but especially now during Women's History Month, that we are kind of just focusing on letting people know how we do what we do here in our mission. And we hope that you enjoyed our presentation, that you learned a little bit more, and that you're encouraged to go ahead and keep studying what you're studying and letting you know that there are women already paving the way for the ones that are coming up. And so be encouraged to be able to just finish what you started and don't give up, especially Debbie, you'll get your job.
And I just want to say thank you to the paper team for jumping in tonight, sharing a little bit about your organization. We very much appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the evening.
Bye-bye.